Today we're going to make a Italian marinated mushroom salad, and it's very simple ingredients. We have whole white mushrooms, celery, a good amount of garlic, and black olives. To that we make a dressing from olive oil, white vinegar, a little bit of salt and pepper, and some Italian seasonings. That's pretty much all it takes. So let's roll up our sleeves and get started. The first thing we need to do is clean the mushrooms. There is dirt from growing them all over the mushrooms. And I've heard several ways of cleaning mushrooms. One is to take each mushroom and wipe it or brush it with a special mushroom brush, which I don't have and I can't see me getting. The other way is to use a damp paper towel and do the same thing, wipe it. It takes too much time. The easiest way I've found is to take your mushrooms and just put them in a bowl of cold water. We're not going to let them soak. All we're going to do is get them in, toss them around, just enough to get the dirt off. So, there we go. And then, once they're clean, I'm going to put them on a white cotton towel to help dry and get some more of the dirt off. So it's as simple as just agitating them in the water. If you see the dirt's falling off of them already. Some may be a little more stubborn and you may want to wipe it a little bit, but in general we just want to stir the mushrooms so that all the dirt just falls to the bottom of this bowl. There, they're almost done already. So I'm going to take them out, let them drip off a little bit, and put them in my towel. Again, if you see a little dirty spot, just use your fingers, it'll come right off. And would you believe that much dirt would be on these mushrooms? So let me get rid of this water just to make a little more room. And take my towel, and you just want to sort of roll them in the towel. That'll help to get more of the dirt off and dry them off a little bit. We don't want them waterlogged. And that's pretty much it. So the next step with our mushrooms is to chop them. Let me get my cutting board and knife. I like a nice sharp knife to start this with. Now, these are white button mushrooms, and you could use a portobello mushroom. I prefer mushroom that's a little bit sturdy so that once we cook it, you don't want everything mushy. So, take your mushroom. It has an end on it where the roots were, and we just take a fresh cut off of that to remove the old dried end off. And then discard those ends. Now, to slice the mushroom, I like to cut the end off. Sometimes you'll get mushrooms with very long ends on them. These happen to be pretty short. The end of the mushroom is a little more tough than the cap of the mushroom. So I like to slice them sideways against the grain of the mushroom in. That'll make it more tender when we cook it. Again, I don't like to cut the mushrooms too small. When we cook them, they are going to reduce in size almost by half. So I like to take a nice thick slice on the mushroom and then cut it once more in half. That's it. So again, cut the end off, slice the stem off, put that aside, couple nice big slices on the mushroom. I'd say they're about 1/4 inch, and in half again. Now this is going to depend on the size of your mushrooms. You could have really big ones, you could have smaller ones, so it's really up to you how large you want to cut them, but that's a good guideline for medium-sized mushroom. The magic of video, we are finished chopping. I have a total of 5 pounds of mushrooms, and the next step is to put them in a large pot and saute them to get a lot of the water out of them and cook them a little bit. So we'll move over to the stove. Okay, so I have an 8-quart pot. I'm gonna start the burner and put it on medium, and a drizzle of olive oil at the bottom. Then I'm going to put my mushrooms in. And about a half a teaspoon of salt. 1/4 teaspoon of pepper. And we're going to stir this. I want to get them coated with the olive oil and get them to reduce, so we draw out some of the moisture from them. It's important not to overcook them, so this is one step you really should pay attention to. Since there's so many mushrooms in the container, we really need to keep moving them around so they all get enough heat. And with mushrooms, since they're dry right now, until some of the moisture starts coming out, you really don't see it cooking. I can hear a sizzle starting, so that's a good sign. But you just want to keep moving them around, let them sit a little bit, continue that. I'm going to say probably 5 to 10 minutes, but I'll show you when we get to the point that I think that they're done. Okay, so the mushrooms have been on for 6 minutes now. I really should have let the pot heat up before I put the mushrooms in, but I don't know if you can see, a lot of water has started to come out of them. Because my pot wasn't hot, I'm going to let that go for another minute. And then we're going to take the mushrooms, and I have a glass bowl here, and I am putting my colander on top, and then I will take the mushrooms, put them into the colander. While they cool, a lot of that excess moisture is going to drain off. We don't want all that water in the salad. Okay, great. If I can. So they're not really overcooked. It still has a little bit of body to them. They're still a little chunky. And I will show you some of the juice that's dripping out of the mushrooms there in the bottom of the thing. So we're just going to let that sit and continue preparing the rest of our vegetables. Now I'm allowing the mushrooms to cool. I've cleaned my cutting board and knife, and we're ready to start with the celery. I've prepared most of it already. This is 1 stalk of celery, and just to show you how I slice this up, I take the celery ribs, we cut off the root end of it and the tips. I took off all of the leaves, so all we have is the celery rib itself. And next, I take the celery rib and slice it in half. Now, depending on the size of your celery is going to depend on how much you cut it. To me, that's a little bit too big, but the top is okay. So I take it about the 3rd way down and slice it lengthwise a second time, and then just chop them into nice uniform pieces. The celery gives this salad a nice crunch, a nice bright flavor, really nice. So 1 stalk of celery chopped is approximately 4 cups. So again, slice it in half lengthwise. Depending on the size, slice it again in half lengthwise and chop uniformly. Just a note on my knife. This is Chicago cutlery, my favorite knife. I've gone through a lot of knives because the handles disintegrate. I've had wooden, I've had plastic, I've had rubber. This one's stainless steel, and it's lasted for years. I think I got this at JCPenney's. Really nice. So again, now the tip here is a little bit smaller, so I'm coming down. Instead of slicing the entire thing lengthwise, I'm just cutting where I think it needs to be done. Again, the more consistent you can stay with the sizes of the celery, the nicer the salad looks. So and there we go. 4 cups celery chopped. Our next ingredient is the black olives. They're pitted California ripe olives. And let me just bring this over. I have a glass bowl to work in because as we add the garlic to it, you don't want it reacting with the metal bowl, and you also don't want the garlic flavor getting into a plastic bowl. It's very difficult to get out. So I take my celery and put it in the bowl. And then we're going to slice the mushrooms. When I went to the store to get the mushrooms, or not mushrooms, olives, the black olives, I wanted to get them pre-sliced. I thought that would be much easier. But the pre-sliced only came in small cans. So unless you can find pre-sliced black olives in your area that come in a decent sized can, you're gonna have to slice them. I think it looks pretty to have just that little ring of olive. It adds to the visual effect of the salad, and I'm just throwing them right in there with the celery. So it's not a difficult recipe, but it does take time because you're doing so much slicing. This is a recipe that was given to my mother by an aunt years ago, and I can remember as a teenager helping my mother make this because you need a few people to help you slice. So I'm not going to bore you watching me cut up all the olives. What I have is 6 ounces California ripe olives. They are pitted, and we've got 4 cans of them total. Now I've put the garlic, celery, and olives in here. I brought over the mushrooms, the cooked mushrooms, and I would say there's about 5 cups, and that's perfect. What we're aiming for is an even balance of celery, olives, and mushrooms. The mushrooms are going to continue to shrink in size as more of the moisture comes out, and just so you can see, we got a couple cups worth of moisture out of those mushrooms. So I'm going to take this and gently toss. It'd be nice if I had a bowl that was just a little bit bigger than this, but we'll make do. I want to distribute everything pretty well. There we go. So it'll need a little bit more stirring, but we're going to put the salad dressing on top of it and then give it another toss at that point. So let me set this aside. And salad dressing, simple, in a container. I'm going to just use my Pyrex measuring cup. I measured out olive oil. It's 4 parts olive oil to 1 part vinegar. So we have 1 cup of olive oil, and this is the extra virgin olive oil because we're not going to be cooking it, and that will add a lot more flavor to the salad. And then just a simple white vinegar, and we're putting in a 1/4 cup. And then I like to use the Italian seasoning. This is a mixture of marjoram, basil, rosemary, thyme, oregano, savory, and sage. So it's a good balance. If you have just oregano on hand, that's fine also, but I thought this would give it a nice flavor. And I've used 2 tablespoons. So I'm going to put that in. And you want to sort of whisk this together until it's well blended. Since we already put salt and pepper in with the mushrooms, I'm not going to add it again here. I would rather have it not too salty and have to add some salt when I'm eating, rather than having too much salt and then there's nothing you can do to get it out. So there you go. Pretty simple. I'm going to pour that over the mixture. We're going to give it another toss just to coat. And you see, it's not swimming in the dressing. We just want enough to coat it where all these little morsels get a flavor. Now, you may be looking at this bowl and saying, wow, that's a lot of salad. And it is. But as I said, I like to give this to friends or family. When I make it, it's easier to make a large batch of it. But the recipe is pretty simple. If you want to make half of it, just cut everything in half and there you go. So now it needs to sit. I'm going to put it in the refrigerator with a plastic wrap on top, and occasionally as I go into the refrigerator, I'll pull this out, toss it around, and put it back in. And that needs to sit for at least 2 days to really develop a nice flavor. My mother used to have it was a 1 gallon like pickle jar with a lid on it, and that is ideal. If you put this into a large jar with a lid, lay it in your freezer or in your refrigerator on its side, and then you just have to turn the jar occasionally to get it all stirred together. So that's it, pretty simple, and this is going to be delicious. So before I go, I have one more tip for you. After mincing the garlic, your cutting board and hands are going to smell like garlic for a couple days. The easiest way to get rid of that is to take a good slice of lemon and Arm & Hammer baking soda. Yes, this is the one for fridge and freezer. I don't have the other kind right now, so what I do is put a little bit in my hand and take the lemon, and you want to squeeze your lemon juice in, and you want to really scrub your fingers. Get underneath the nails, in between. Give it a good scrub. The baking soda is a good scrub for your hands. It's going to exfoliate any rough parts, so that's good. The lemon's going to take the scent of the garlic off. And then, same thing for your cutting board. Little bit of baking soda. Take your lemon and just use it as a scrubber. After doing this, I scrub it real well, and then a little bit more lemon juice on it, and I'm just going to let that sit and work to get all the garlic out, and then I'll just take it and wash and rinse it as normal. Okay.